Have you ever been in a situation where you're standing next to somebody and you want to start a conversation and it's just getting more awkward because nobody's talking? You're scared about what you might say, or maybe just being one of those conversations that falls flat? In today's video, I'm going to break down a framework that you can start to use today in order to make sure that you can start communicating like a pro. If you're new to the channel, my name is Bennett Schwartz and I'm a high performance coach. I work with people both personally and professionally, so if you're looking to live a richer life, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Working with so many people on different skills, this idea of communication keeps popping up. And honestly, it was something that I struggled with. I always caught myself feeling uncomfortable because there were conversations that I wanted to have, and for some reason, I just wasn't able to have them. And even if I was able to start it, I wasn't able to engage in the conversation. So today, I'm going to break down what it is that you can start to use in order to make sure that you can start to be engaging in conversations, whether or not you actually know the person. And if you stay till the end, I'm going to teach you a trick that you must do every time somebody starts engaging in a conversation with you. And the first place that I like to start is really describing the difference between an extrovert and an introvert. You see, so many times people label an introvert as somebody negative and an extrovert as somebody positive. But the truth is that there's no difference between an introvert and an extrovert. Both are just different types of people, and there could be different situations where you feel more like an introvert and other situations where you feel more like an extrovert. And I heard from a coach named Rich Litvin that he spoke about this idea because when it comes to introvert, they like being either in the front of the room or they like being in the back of the room. And it's why so many public speakers talk about how they really are an introvert, because they can get up on a stage and speak in front of thousands of people. But when they come off the stage, the last thing they want to do is starting to talk to everybody. And what they really want to do is they just want to go to the back and really hide from everybody, as opposed to an extrovert who likes to really be around people and really gets so much more energy when they speak to people. And it's what Simon Sinek spoke about, how an extrovert is really gaining so much energy when they speak with people, as opposed to an introvert who just feels so heavy and it feels like they're losing energy when they really have those conversations. You can imagine two people who each have $5 on them. And for some people who are an extrovert, they're really taking the other people's money. They're taking it because they feel like they're gaining from the conversation, as opposed to an extrovert who feels like they're giving up their money every time they're speaking. So knowing who you are could be a real good indication in terms of the skills that you need to be working on. And if you want to be somebody, we just have to start learning the skills and the habits to allow ourselves to become that type of person. And that takes me to my next point, because when it comes to conversation, there are really only three different parts of the conversation. It's how you start the conversation, how you engage in the conversation, and how you end in the conversation. And what's good about that is that the first and the last part, we can prepare before we even have the conversation. So whether it's a party that you're going to, or whether you're just going to the supermarket, understand that we can have those conversations before we start that can give us so much more confidence to be able to get into a conversation with somebody. The easiest place that most people start with a conversation is, how's your day going? Or how's the weekend? And if there's some type of holiday that's coming up or just passed, you can ask them about that specific holiday. But being prepared with 2 or 3 questions could really help you be able to start that conversation to get to the second point of engagement. But before we get to engagement, I want to talk about how we can end a conversation. You see, so many times you might get caught up in a conversation and you're having a very lovely conversation, but for some reason you want to get out of there. You have to go, or you just want to be doing something different. If we could start to come up with certain excuses to allow ourselves to leave a conversation in an appropriate way, we'll be totally fine to be able to move. So whether it's something like, sorry, I need to go take a call, or do you know where the restroom is? Oh, I didn't realize the time, I really have to get going. Those are all different ways that you can get yourself out of a conversation. So now that we have the intro to the conversation and we have the end of the conversation prepared, now we need to figure out what are we supposed to do about the meat of the conversation. How are we supposed to engage in a conversation? There are a few different things we need to focus on. Number one is understanding that when you're having a conversation with somebody, there's somebody on the other side of the table. There's somebody that you're speaking to that hopefully be able to engage in a conversation. It's one of the things whenever I used to go on dates, I used to always get so scared beforehand because let's say we have nothing to talk about, but then I reminded myself that there's another person there and they're also going to be wanting to ask me questions about things that are going on in my life. So if you have this fear that you're not going to be able to say anything, just calm yourself down a little bit by recognizing that there's 2 people that are going to be having a dialogue. The second thing that we need to understand when we're engaging in a conversation is that we need to be asking engaging questions. And we do that by asking open-ended questions. You see, the difference between an open-ended question and a closed-ended question is that a closed-ended question usually ends with the answers yes or no. It's usually a one-word answer that we don't really have any more information to grab onto, as opposed to an open-ended question, which allows us to be able to continue the conversation based on the information that they gave us. So for example, a closed-ended question would sound something like, do you like pizza? How's your day going? those answers are only going to be one-word answers, yes or no for the pizza, or it's going good or bad for them, how my day is going. But if I can start to ask a question starting with the word what, it allows me to ask a question that they're going to have to give me more information. So for example, what pizza do you like? It's not a yes or a no answer. They're going to have to give me some information. So whether it's whole wheat or whether it's Sicilian, they'll be able to tell us more information that we can ask another open-ended question afterwards about. And if we could start to understand that we could ask those open-ended questions just by saying the word what, we're going to be able to continue engaging in conversation. And the third thing that's really cool about engaging in conversations is that people love talking about themselves. So if you can continue asking questions about the other person, they're going to continue talking about themselves. It's also what Chris Voss teaches, is when you're trying to negotiate with people, you have to realize that if you could just repeat the last 1 to 3 words that the person said, they'll continue speaking on that specific topic. So for example, if somebody responds, I really like Sicilian pizza, all you have to do is say Sicilian pizza and put it in a question form, and they're going to say, yeah, I really like it. For some reason, I just like the square shape. The square shape? Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but for whatever reason, I really like it. And all you have to do is really just repeat the last couple of words that the person said in a question form, and it continues them that conversation. So whether it's asking an open-ended question or just repeating the last few words the person said, you're going to be able to engage more in the conversation. So there you have it. You have the beginning, you have the middle, and you have the end. However, I would say that there is another thing that you want to be able to focus on, because all the tips and tricks that I just shared with you are more all offensively. However, on the defensive side, you want to be able to give the other person something to latch onto as well. So when somebody asks you a question, don't just give them a yes or no answer, but always give them more details so they have the ability to be able to work out all the different things. So they'll have more details to be able to hook onto to ask you a follow-up question. So when somebody would ask you, what did you do this weekend? As opposed to just saying, I played with my kids at the park, you can say something along the lines, I took my 2 kids to the park for about 3 hours in the morning, and then we were able to go to a restaurant that night, and it was actually a really lovely weekend. And by doing that, you have so many different things that they can look to attach onto. So whether it's the fact that you have kids, the fact that you have 2 kids, the fact that you went to the park, the fact that you went out to dinner, in fact, where did you go out to dinner? There's so many different things that you're giving them. So when somebody's engaging in a conversation with you, to continue the conversation, allow yourself to come up with more things. You don't have to go on and on and on, but recognize if you can give them 2 or 3 different topics to latch onto, it's only going to be more beneficial to them. The final part about this is that you need to practice, whether it's with a friend or a family member who you already feel comfortable with, but understanding if you can start getting used to the fact that you can ask open-ended questions, repeat the last couple of words, have your questions beforehand, and when you want to leave ready, I'm telling you, you're going to be able to start a conversation, whether it's for 20 seconds, whether it's for 20 minutes. Let me know which one of the tricks down below is your favorite, and don't forget to subscribe and check out this next video.